at the end of the day, you know, we worked really hard. We brought a lot of people out to vote. And then I got elected. And then I said, wow, now I actually have to go do this job. Because really, I mean, we really didn't, for us, it really wasn't aspiring for the seat so much as using the campaign and the election as an opportunity to really engage in a very, very meaningful way. And unless and until, particularly in the communities of color, and this goes for, in the Senate district that I represent, it has the oldest and probably the second largest Latino Hispanic community. It has one of the largest urban Indian communities. It has one of the largest Hmong American, Southeast Asian community. It had a very dwindling African American community because a lot of the African Americans had actually left that area and moved to the nearby suburb. But the people who chose to stay were homeowners and property owners, and they chose to stay in the district, right? And part of the reason why it was really important for us to engage in this campaign and to really go out there and take it household by household by household is that campaigns and elections have become so corporatized. The only way that candidates will campaign is to buy the list of the Secretary of State's office. They do their literature piece and they do their postcard, and then they mail to the people who are already on those lists that they get from the Secretary of State's office. We weren't satisfied with that because you know what? Most of my people are not on that list. And if my people are not on that list, how are they going to get the information about the candidates? So what we wanted to do is we want to generate enough new interest, you know, to add to that list. But we also want every single household on the east side of St. Paul to know that even if they're on the list or not, they were important enough for us to show up at their door. We did 4 door knocks. We hit every single household. We printed over 80,000 pieces of literature for one door knock. And any given time, we had over 350 volunteers. We could pass out 80,000 pieces of literature in one morning. And I spent the money to do that. So what we did was we set up a propane tank, 2 big propane tank stoves with like giant cauldrons. In the morning when people came, this is in the winter of Minnesota, we would make huge pots of congee, right? So people get a really solid breakfast. And then we tell them, when you come back, check in, but come back to eat lunch. And then once everyone ate and they left, then my mom and her sisters would then put up another 2 giant pots, and they would make noodles, right? And then when people came back, they had giant, bowl of waiting for them. And then we got them to report in. And at the beginning, it was just all Hmong Americans who would show up. But then as soon as other campaign people heard that we actually feed them real food, right? Then people started to show up. The other thing that we did was that we made sure, because for the first time, there were people of color going to knock on the doors of people on the east side of St. Paul. And we were really, really worried that if I sent 2 young Hmong American men to a household, that they weren't being put in a dangerous situation, or they weren't being perceived as being threatening to the people who were opening the doors. So you know how small some of us are, right? But it was in the middle of winter, and I knew that people were going to be wearing their heavy Minnesota down winter jackets, right? So we ordered campaign T-shirts in extra large, extra large, and XXX large, right? So that they can wear these like tents over their winter clothes that clearly showed my campaign. We had people put on big name tags, and then I didn't just send people out in 1s or 2s. I sent them out in teams of 3s and 4s. And what we wanted to do is that when people showed up, we want the sense of excitement to totally emanate from them, right? So we had high school kids who wanted to volunteer. We had grandmas and grandpas, from the Latino community, as well as the Hmong American community who couldn't speak English. So we would send them out in teams of 3s and 4s. The one who couldn't speak English would hold a clipboard. The one that could speak English would be the speaker. One of the people would be the door knocker. And then the rest of the other 3 would stand on the sidewalk with a lawn sign. So they would knock on the door, the people will open the door, and then the people on the sidewalk will go, yay! So right after the fact, I heard from so many people, they said they thought they had won the Publishers Clearinghouse. Amazing thing, right? people that we were knocking on their doors, that there was so much excitement, you know, around this campaign. And guess what? A majority of the people who came out to help my campaign weren't even citizens, and so many didn't speak English. But there was no law that says you have to be a citizen to volunteer in a campaign. So we really were able to harness, right, people's sense of excitement, then to multiply the sense of excitement as they went to the doors to do what they needed to do. A couple of thoughts that I kind of want to leave with you. I said, think about it. Why are you here today? Why are you here today? I want to hear from three people. Why are you here today? Somebody. Don't leave me hanging. Yes?
I am here because I'm now retired, I spent a lot of my life doing affirmative action, and we did a PAYS and a PIG, and this is you guys' time, and I want to help get the votes, the people registered for voting, because it's going to make a key difference. Affirmative action is waning, people of color are becoming a majority. This is transition time.
Good. Another reason. Why are you here today? Yes.
In '08, when they did the caucuses, it was my first time in Washington doing that. And I was up at Mercer Middle School, and there were so many young people and so many people of color out for Obama. And I hope we can rile up that excitement again this year, bring more people into vote.
Last person. Why are you here? Way in the back.
I am here because all my life, my parents have not thought that politics was important. And a lot of people in my community who are of their background and their age feel the same, and I just want to show otherwise.
You're here because you personally deeply believe that politics is important, right? You're here because you have seen how much inspiration means if you get people out and be involved. And you are here because you have been pursuing this passion for a long time, and you want to make sure that the transition is in place for others to join you in that journey to make that happen. The reason why we all do our work, and as I think about why, you know, after 10 years in public life, I have decided to continue to do that work, the same exact work, but just in a different sandbox, is that we are all moved by passion. We feel personally connected to civic engagement, to people really making sure that this government truly is, right, a government of, for, and by the people. We are here because we are the frontline people who really believe it, right? And when you believe that and you're willing to invest your personal resources, you're really willing to invest your personal resources to make that happen. And that's why you let your feet do the voting today by just showing up, right? And between now and election day and for the next 10 years until we hit another redistricting, right? Many of you are going to continue to do this work because you want to personally put your own personal resources into this work. You have a passion, you're willing to sacrifice and put your own personal resources in. And when people do that, when a group of people like us can gather in here and we have the intention and the will to pursue those individual passions now in a collective, something magical happens. It's like the universe just conspires somehow to make all of that happen. That's part of the organic chemistry, right, that takes place. And that's what I found out in my campaign. So because I believe so deeply that we were going to be engaging in an exercise, right, that was going to really, truly not only change the faces of politics in Minnesota, but change people's lives, right? And I was able to then get a couple of other people to actually join me in that belief. And we sacrificed our time, and we sacrificed our resources to really invest in that, make that happen. Other people saw that, and they're like, wow, if those people are willing to do that for that short moment, you know, maybe we ought to join, right? You know, I started with my family and started with my community. But before you know it, there were people from all over the district who looked exactly like all of you in this room who said, there's something really exciting happening over there in that basement, you know, on the corner of Payne and Arcade. We think we better go check it out, right? I mean, there's just something exciting about that. And that chemistry, like, right, just percolates and permeates. And that's how I got elected. Because there were a group of people who were so passionate and committed, right? And we all sacrificed ourselves, and then it brought the excitement to it. What you are going to attempt to do as you go out into the community, to persuade people to register to vote, and then ultimately to vote once the ballot arrives to them, is that you are going to take yourself and you're going to communicate that passion. And you're going to show the people that you're going to be meeting with that I'm here and willing to invest myself in doing this because you're important to me. And in doing that one by one by one, we're going to take the excitement in this room and passion in this room, we're going to multiply it all across this state. All across this state. Last night, and this will be my last point, last night I spent about an hour and a half with the Multi-American Association in Washington. And it was a Q&A opportunity, and one of the members of the audience said to me, I understand, actually they directed the question at Michael. You know, because Michael had just talked about the training today and that people could come if they wanted to. And the individual wasn't asking this question from a cynical perspective, but he was very, very genuinely curious. And he actually said, I have heard people say to me, why participate? Because nothing ever gets done, and it doesn't make a difference. And Michael gave the perfect answer, which is that because it makes a difference, right, to our political system, that you should participate because you matter. But what that question signaled to me is that maybe it wasn't about the person who was asking the question, but it was about the times, you know, that we are in today. If you think about politics in the United States today, there's a tremendous, tremendous vacuum. There's a belief gap. Belief gap. Not just among our friends and our families, but in the community, that everyone is living in such a tremendously hard time. And unless there's a group of people like us going out there to say to them, you matter, you're important to me. Unless there are candidates who are willing to go out there to say, you matter to me, you are important to me, you matter to this country, right? Unless we can actually achieve in closing that belief gap, we're never going to win the democratic hearts and souls of the people of this country. And if we don't achieve that victory of winning the democratic hearts and souls of the people in this country, then we will have given up our country and our government and our system to the few gazillionaires who wants to buy, right, our democracy as we know. I mean, it's the absolute truth. And so what you are all going to be doing between now and the election is you're going to be trying to find ways to close that belief gap. And that you have to recognize that you perhaps will be the first and the beginning of a conversation that is going to spark, reignite that sense of belief again in people who have become cynical because they've been told that they're insignificant, that their government doesn't care about them. In fact, there's nothing called government anymore because nothing ever gets done. So I will leave you with this quote because I'm going to go see this movie with my 5-year-old daughter. The Lorax said to the little boy, unless someone like you, right, cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get